So I owe everyone an update about what happened yesterday. By no means is this like a final update because I'll be doing this for as long as I possibly can. But I went there expecting basically either nothing at all or being forcibly removed by police or something, and none of that thankfully happened. What did happen was that my former friends and colleagues did come up to me and did ask me questions. Some of them, I think 2 or 3 people actually said that they were shocked this is happening and that they're with me. Not that they would say anything or do anything, but even starting the wheels turning in your head is, I count as an achievement. At the end of the rehearsal, by the way, some of them wanted to hug me, and I said, no, I can't touch you because I don't want to give anyone an excuse to think that I am trying to carry a disease or get them a disease or anything like that. So I'm being very careful on that front. At the end of the rehearsal, my conductor came out of the rehearsal place, and it turned out that he didn't even know that I was sitting there, which I'm fine with because from now on he will know. And he was very fake polite. You know, I thought only women did that, like the, oh, hi. And he was like, how are you? How have you been? And I'm like, I'm okay. I'm sitting here and waiting for you to realize you've done something silly and let me back in. And he says, you know that it's not up to me. There's now legislation for this. Either you take a jab or take a test every 48 hours before you show up to rehearsal, otherwise we can't let you in. And I said, you know, it's very interesting how, you know, I've known you for a little while now, and I've seen you protest many things, including the former prime minister. And for some reason, you even went when COVID was a very dangerous, I mean, when it was just like at the most dangerous that it's ever been, while I was having cancer treatments, and you were putting me at risk much more than I'm putting you right now. And it didn't seem to matter because you had a just cause. And for some reason, you really seem to pick your battles, because now that they're not letting me in, you're just following orders. And he said, yes, that's what I'm doing. I'm following orders. And I said, did you realize what you just said? You were following orders. And he said, yeah, that's what I'm doing. So I let it go. And then he says, can I give you a ride anywhere? And I'm like, no, thank you. And then we left together. I walked him to his car. And I said, you know, the fact that you offered me a ride proves that you and I both know that you know that I am healthy. Because had you not known that I was healthy and safe, you would never have offered me a ride or to be in a confined space with you. And he says, you know, but it's your choice because it's only up to you if you do the test or the jab, and no one is making you do anything. It's your choice whether you're allowed back in or not. And I said, yeah, but it's still rape because this is being done against my will. And he says, it's not being done against your will if you're doing it with your hand. It's just sticking a stick a few centimeters up your nose. And I said, anything that penetrates my body without my consent, even if it's by my own hand, is rape. So he stopped talking. He said he's not going to debate me on that. And I said, I'm not going to debate you either. I urged him to look into precedents about AIDS and basic healthcare rights. And then I told him, I'll be here every single time there's a rehearsal waiting outside. Don't worry about me. I'm ready for rehearsal if you want me back in, or I have a book to read if you don't. So I'll just be waiting for you to realize what you've done. And then I said goodbye. And I'll be persevering as much as I possibly can. Hopefully every week. Twice a week when there's rehearsal. The book I'm reading is the second reason I wanted to make this video. I'm working on compiling a reading list. I mean, I'm no Jordan Peterson or anything, but I do read books every once in a while, and I think some of them or most of them have some worth. The book I'm reading is actually part of my protest now, and it just came to me yesterday that the books I'm reading matter in the protest. Sorry for the noise, and I'll try not to talk when there's a car or a vehicle passing by. So the book I'm reading is part of my protest now, and I've done this before several times when I went to the Falun Gong protest against forced organ harvesting by the CCP, something you should look into, and political protests in the past. I don't know how to scream slogans or hold signs, so instead of belonging to a group where it's us versus them, where it's very easy to dehumanize someone because simply by putting yourself into a group, you are basically strawmanning yourself. So what I'll be doing from now on is isolating myself and putting myself next to people who know me and what I'm about, because I don't need to talk to them. They understand. And those who don't, they're lost anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And the book I'm reading now is called IBM and the Holocaust. I recommend 2 books by Edwin Black, at least 2 books by Edwin Black. The second one is called War Against the Weak. I think I've linked to it before, and if not, I'll link to it again or now. They both talk about the birth of eugenics, and IBM talks about how they used the technology of simple punch cards, which is a hole in a strategic place in a piece of cardboard, to categorize people to such detail that not only do they know you're Jewish or not, where you're from, but they also know your eye color or your hair color, how many kids you have, your level of education. It's terrifying. Just imagine that before 1990 you probably didn't even know what to do. I mean, you would go to the library, and if you didn't have a book about it at the library, you wouldn't know what to do about it. You ask people around. And in 1933 they already had the technology to categorize people to the point where you would only think this technology would exist now. And so imagine what they know now about all of us. And I'm not making any claims about any medical procedures that we're being asked nicely to take, but I am making those claims that with as little as a punch card and a hole in a specific place, they knew everything about us back then. Imagine what they know now and what they're capable of doing now. And the second thing I learned from this book is that it was always categorized as medical. So the Jews were plague rats, which is an interesting term because it's been used now. And they carried typhus, and also if you were born with bad genetics, like if you were German, clean German, but you were mentally retarded, they would exterminate you as well. And it's all been done using these same IBM punch cards. And the third last thing that I've learned from this book, not last obviously, but one of them, is that we were being told the whole time that as the Nazis were exterminating Jews and working on eugenics, that the world was silent. When in fact, not only was the world not silent, there is so much evidence that we were never shown about just how much and how long people have been protesting against Nazi Germany. So before reading this book, I've only seen one poster on Google from Madison Square Garden where a few tens of thousands of people gathered to protest and boycott Nazi Germany. It was, I think, from 1933. But apparently it was not just there. It was people all over the United States, not just Jews. Actually, Jews were the minority who were protesting against Nazi Germany and what they were doing against Jews. And the whole world was protesting. The only people who weren't were the media industrial complex the large corporations, that many of them benefited from this, and the politicians. So when you were shamed and called white supremacist or whatever, or being told that we were silent back then and we won't be now, we were never silent. None of us. None of you, none of us, or our ancestors actually. None of them were silent, or most of them weren't silent. And even back then, people were very well aware about what was happening. I've never read Mein Kampf, and I never will, out of, again, protests. But Edwin Black does quote the line in this book where Hitler actually says that he intends to gas Jews, kill them with gas. So everyone who read the book knew. And the protests are proof. I don't know if it's good news or bad news, because every time I look into history, I realize that nothing is new. So I don't know if we can make a change, but it's, not like we have a choice. As you can see, none of this is going to ever get back to normal. So we have everything to lose. So we might as well give them a hard time on the way down, even if we don't make it, which is sort of a black pill, but still. I will also link to a book called A World Without Cancer, not because of cancer, but because it talks about a specific substance that was banned. And in order to draw the line, in order to draw the picture of how it was banned, it gets into a lot of detail about Rockefellers and about corporations, and especially about the fact that IG Farben never stopped existing. I knew IG Farben is, to those of you who don't know necessarily, it was the corporation that started as a chemical dye corporation, then moved to became a rubber plant or something. They had a patent for rubber, and occasionally experimented on Jews in Auschwitz, especially with fertility. Not just Jews, I think. So after the war, they disbanded. I stopped talking because of the noise, because I can't do anything about the noise, but I can at least not make it harder for you to hear me. They were experimenting on women's fertility, and then they formed the Bayer company, Bayer, that manufactures birth control pills. Another reason to get off your medication and do it correctly and naturally. It's interesting to know that I knew that they had never been completely dismantled, but it's important to see just how much they grew since the war ended, and they just changed their names, and nothing's changed except the name. So I'll be linking to that, and there is one thing that I would like to add as well. A troll that I think I blocked, commented that they can see from my updates that I have mental health issues. Well, everyone has, I think, mental health issues during this time, because it's a very scary time. And if you're not worried when you go to sleep, then I think then you have problems with mental health. I don't, by the way. So thank you for asking or proclaiming that I have mental health issues. Not the first time I've been called crazy, not the last time either, probably. These are crazy times, though, so I'll give you that. But I will stress that please take care of your physical and mental health, because it's our most important tool in this battle. And by that I mean eat clean food, learn about what works and what doesn't with your diet. And if you pray. If not, meditate, or just take some time to yourself to clear your mind. I do this at the beach, obviously, but not just there. Take time to rest. Take time to go offline. By that I don't just mean get off Facebook or whatever, but I mean like I highly recommend watching Miyazaki movies, like the anime cartoons that Miyazaki makes, Studio Ghibli, because they are a world of fantasy, or anything that helps you disengage and, I don't know, smile more or think about. Listen to music that you've been listening to before. Take walks, whatever works for you. Because if your mental health is not there, then you're not thinking clearly and you might make stupid mistakes. And our goal is for them to make the stupid mistakes, not us. And there is a time and a place. I'm not telling anyone what to do or what not to do, but there is a time and a place for individuality and for group think. So when you go to a protest, make sure that you're going to the right places at the right time. And as you can see from my example, I did go to a few of them. Sometimes it depends on public transportation. I mean, there's no public transportation on the Sabbath, and the protests are in Tel Aviv, so I can't get there many times. But many times it's just very difficult on mental health, because there's limits to how much a person can take when you're standing silently in a group and being spat on or called names. Or, I mean, when you're outside of the situation, you don't realize how hard it is when the energies are not there. But when you're physically in a protest and someone is calling you a plague rat, crazy, or calling for physical extermination, that happened. It takes a toll. It really does. So make sure that you are there when the numbers are needed, and make sure that your individuality is always expressed, because we all have something to contribute. And if God would have needed us to be only in groups, groupthink would be a lot easier, and communism would probably work. But since it doesn't, and individualism does exist and does play a role, use it to the best of your ability. I think that's it. I recorded a video earlier that was probably better than this one, but I got really, really cold and I started sniffling, so now I'm wearing a jacket and I'm making the shorter version of that amazing video. But I will ask that you educate yourselves as much as possible. We educate ourselves as much as possible on the art of nonviolent protests and humor, because that's our best tool. And if someone is physically at your door or trying to inject you forcibly, or your children, I will not tell you what to do or not to do, because that is self-defense. And unfortunately, in some places, even wearing a body armor is illegal, like Australia. But sometimes, as Michael Malice says, the time for conversation and peaceful protest is over. And I hope we never reach that time. But I'm leaving it up to your consideration to know when you are in imminent physical danger, because unfortunately these are crazy times. So thank you for listening. I hope I'm not forgetting anything. I am working on a locals page. I still don't know if you can even operate one out of Israel in terms of the technicalities there. But if I can, I will give a better link to it and not just talk about it. If not, I'll keep linking to books that I'm reading, that I'm holding during protests and not just then. And if you have any ideas on how to make our message clearer, I highly recommend that you use them and that you share them with as many or as few people as you possibly can. I don't know how to make it any less bannable. But that's it. And I will also link to a few videos that I use to laugh every once in a while, because why not? And thank you for listening.